In a crime-ridden house, the police discover several victims of a gruesome, inexplicable homicide. Bloodstains in every corner hint at the horror that must have taken place. Sheriff Burke is investigating the scene when he gets called into the basement. The team has uncovered a half-buried, unidentified corpse of a naked woman. With no identity, they call her Jane Doe. What makes the case bizarre is there was no forced entry. However, there's evidence to show that the victims were desperately trying to break out of the house. Austin Tilden and his father, Tommy Tilden, are small-town coroners who perform autopsies in the basement mortuary of their home. As the day comes to an end, Austin prepares for movie night with his girlfriend, Emma. However, Emma's playful surprise, a sudden jump onto Austin, leaves him startled. After all, nothing says relationship goals like a jump scare right after an autopsy, ensuring Austin's heart is still in top shape. It's her first time seeing Austin's workplace, and she wants a tour. Austin doesn't want to return to the mortuary, but reluctantly accompanies her at Emma's insistence. She asks him to show her a body, but he refuses, fearing it'll haunt her. He also mentions his father's strict rules. Unexpectedly, Tommy gives Austin the go-ahead. Austin pulls out a body from the morgue, but Emma asks to see another, to which Austin complies and pulls out another body with its face covered and a bell tied to its foot. Tommy explains that back in the day it was difficult to tell if a person had died or was in a comatose state, which is why a bell was tied to their foot. So if they heard it ring, they would know that someone down there was not yet ready to go. Tommy, being a traditionalist, ties a bell to everybody in the morgue, even if the person was shot in the face. After giving Emma the scare of her life, talk about karma, Austin and Emma head out but meet Sheriff Burke midway, pulling in Jane Doe's corpse. Tommy arrives and assures Austin he'll take care of it, but Austin cannot bring himself to leave his dad alone, not after his mother passed away 2 years ago. This upsets Emma, however she agrees to meet up later and leaves. Meanwhile, Sheriff Burke and Tommy discuss the case in the morgue. Austin returns and Burke states he needs answers concerning the enigmatic Jane Doe, who has no visible injuries yet she lies there dead. Tommy is pleased to have Austin back, ready to work together on the Jane Doe. As they record their findings, Austin examines Jane's cloudy eyes, indicating she has been pushing up daisies for a long time, yet oddly enough there's no rigor mortis. She has a tiny waist which doesn't quite fit the rest of her frame, and bizarrely enough imitates how, in the 17th century, women wore corsets to ensure an abnormally smaller waist. Upon further evaluation, they find her wrists and ankles are shattered, with no outward signs. They scrape off the dirt from her nails, and Tommy is surprised to find that it's peat, which is usually found in the north, suggesting she didn't die in the area where she was found. Her tongue has also been severed, roughly. Suddenly, she starts bleeding from her nose as a fly exits the nostril. They also discover that she's missing a molar. Looking deeper into her mouth, Tommy finds a string that he pulls out. Unbeknownst to the duo, things around them have strangely started changing. Just a few minutes ago, the radio announced 2 days of sunshine, but thunder could be heard as if it was going to rain. And the lights flicker and the radio glitches as they're about to cut Jane open. As Tommy makes the Y incision, Jane's body bleeds, baffling them, but Tommy believes it might be due to pressure buildup. Upon looking at her insides, they discover her lungs are burnt, her genitalia are torn from the inside without any burn marks on the external body, and her organs are scarred without an explanation. Suddenly, they hear a noise and Austin goes to check. He reaches the corridor and sees a reflection in the hallway, but when he goes to investigate, there's no one there. Hearing noises from the pantry, Austin investigates and is startled by movement in the vent. Tommy arrives with a flashlight and they discover their cat in a dire state inside. Tommy compassionately euthanizes the suffering cat. Tommy later incinerates its carcass and laments its loss, as the cat belonged to Tommy's deceased wife. He returns to the mortuary, and they resume inspecting Jane Doe's body. They move to her gastrointestinal examination and find Jimson weed, a paralyzing agent found in the north in her digestive tract. They also find her molar wrapped in a cloth with ritualistic markings on it in her stomach, indicating that she was forced to swallow the cloth with her own tooth. All the brutalities she went through point out that she might have been used as a human sacrifice. Austin feels uneasy, but Tommy is too busy to think about it and asks Austin to help him remove Jane Doe's epidermis, which reveals the same ritualistic marking on its insides. Suddenly, all the lights in the mortuary shatter and a loud noise is heard before Austin uses the flashlights from his mobile phone to find Tommy. He's shocked to find all the morgue drawers open and the bodies missing. Shaken by what just happened, they attempt to leave but find the exit door blocked by a fallen tree. The generator only powers the lights, not the elevator, forcing them to use the stairs. Their attempt to call Sheriff Burke from their office fails due to poor signal. As they ponder their next move, they hear footsteps and a bell. The dead bodies have somehow reanimated and are trying to get into their office. They barricade the door with furniture to keep them out. Austin suspects it's all orchestrated by Jane, as Tommy's wound from an earlier autopsy injury begins to bleed. Tommy goes to wash the wound in the bathroom and encounters an invisible entity with Jane's eyes that attacks him, leaving him injured. Austin breaks in to find his father hurt and alone. Convinced that Jane is responsible, they plan to cremate her. They return to the mortuary only to discover her body's internals have decayed unnaturally. As they try to leave, the doors lock. Determined, Austin uses a fire axe to cut through, only to find a reanimated corpse on the other side. Frustrated, Austin douses Jane's body in flammable liquid and Tommy sets it ablaze, but the fire unexpectedly spreads to the ceiling and damages their camera. Oddly enough, Jane's body remains unscathed by the flames. Hearing the elevator, they rush towards it, axe in hand, and find the previously stuck door now open. They nearly reach the elevator, but the doors close before that. As they await another chance, they hear approaching footsteps accompanied by a bell. Austin forces the door open when the elevator returns, dragging Tommy inside. But as the doors jam and the lights fail, Tommy grabs the axe from Austin and swings it on an approaching corpse with a half-blown-off face, defending them against it. However, it was all an illusion because it wasn't the corpse, but Emma who had returned to pick up Austin for their date. Tommy helps a devastated Austin and ushers him into the elevator, as they need to get out of there. However, the elevator stops midway and they're stuck. In the moment, Tommy admits his guilt over not realizing that Austin's mother was suffering from depression and blames himself for not caring enough, ultimately leading to her demise. But they need to stay focused, and so Austin theorizes that Jane's aggressive attempts to halt her autopsy stem from a desire to keep her death's cause hidden, convincing him that going back might offer a solution to stop her. They force open the door and make their way back to the mortuary through the corridor now filled with smoke. As they're walking, Tommy again gets attacked by an entity. Austin somehow finds his dad and helps him get to the mortuary before the entity hurts him again. They reach the mortuary and close the door behind them. Resuming their investigation into Jane's death, Austin cuts open her head and takes a part of her brain. He looks at it under a microscope and is bewildered to find there's brain activity, suggesting she might have been alive or some force is keeping her alive. Austin notices cloth with ritualistic patterns when folded reveals Leviticus 27, leading them to a Bible verse about executing witches and clues dating back to 17th century New England. However, Tommy believes there were no witches in Salem, just innocent girls. He theorizes that a botched ritual on Jane might have unleashed something malevolent. Revealing a ritual mark on his own skin, he speculates Jane seeks revenge on those obstructing her, gaining energy with each victim. His deduction is interrupted by ominous bangs on the door, signaling an imminent threat. Tommy begs Jane to spare Austin and take him instead, leading to his wrists and ankles breaking, internal burning and eyes clouding as the damage on Jane reverses, except his tongue allowing him to speak. He pleads with Austin to eliminate him and end the torment, which Austin does with a heavy heart. Things return to normal as Austin hears Sheriff Burke outside. He tells Austin they're sawing down the tree. Austin climbs the stairs and tries opening the door, but realizes there's no Burke as he hears a song play. He turns to see dead Tommy standing right behind him. Austin backs away into a wooden railing that gives way, making Austin fall to his demise. The next day, the cops investigate a site of yet another homicide. The corpses are back in the morgue and Jane's body lies perfectly intact, as if no autopsy was ever done on her. The radio mentions that it has been 4 straight sunny days. Strangely, the cops recover only 2 bodies, which makes us wonder if Emma was also an illusion. As Jane is being transported to another county, the radio starts glitching in the middle of the journey, and Jane's foot twitches as if she has slowly begun to reanimate herself. That's a horror recap for the autopsy of Jane Doe. Hit the subscribe button to cast a protective spell on your house so Jane Doe doesn't end up in your basement, and hit the bell icon to accept the challenge of watching all our horror recap videos.